thank you again. We're going to be doing a video here on the installation of Orthotrac on the server. First thing we want to do is kind of prep our server here, so I'm going to open up my computer. And a lot of you might have a second hard drive here that you have your data stored on. In this case, since this is a virtual machine, I didn't want to create another drive, so I am going to just open up my C drive here, and I'm going to right click and say new folder. I usually like to create a folder called data, and then I'll share that out. Let's right click and I'm going to go to properties and sharing, advanced sharing. Check this box here and change the permissions and make sure it actually is full control. That's half the battle. The other thing is to make sure you right click on the folder and go to properties. Or if you are sharing this or doing this from your D drive and you're sharing the root of your D drive, you might want to do the security of the drive itself. So we go into the edit button there, and then we'll go to users. And if you had a domain, there'd be other choices, maybe domain users. Give them full control. It's good to do that now rather than if you were moving data over there, because once you apply that, it has to propagate to all files down below that, which can get kind of time consuming. So it's best to do it before. Okay, so now we are set there. So we're going to go ahead and open up my Orthotrac, or put your Orthotrac CD in. And we're going to go ahead and I'll start with the menu. Now, one thing to point out is if you don't have data execution prevention turned off, a lot of times you'll get an error when trying to run this auto run. That's kind of a sign. It's not a bad idea to turn that off here. So we're going to go ahead and say install. Alright, and we kind of just follow it, the prompts here. We're going to say yes, this machine is the server, and then I understand it has a minimal of Windows XP. Alright, we're going to go ahead and hit next. Next again. It's going to install SQL 2005. Okay, for some reason you did have another server, you can do this, but usually you let it just auto-detect and see if there's a version already on there, and it'll go ahead and create an instance if it already existed. But in this case I don't have it. We're going to say next, and it should start the Microsoft 2005 Express version. And I may pause it here to make this go by a little bit quicker here. Alright, now it's actually starting to copy some files here and go through the list here. Alright, I paused it there. It took quite a while to run through the SQL part, so it finished. So now the installation can kind of continue. So now it's asking us for the part where we want to install it on our local server here. In this case, you just want to browse it to whatever drive you have. And in my case here, I'm going to go to my C data OMS, make sure that's there. Okay, see. Just can confirm the path again and hit next, and then next. And now we're actually getting files copied. One thing to remember about when creating your map drives or your login scripts, Orthotrac by default on the workstations is going to look for the mapping to be U. So if you use any other letter than that, it's not going to work out of the gates, and you're going to have to change the INI on each machine. So it's best to just take the path of least resistance and just go ahead and make your mappings U. Alright, you can see there's some utilities that's running. It's updating the database. If you had an existing Orthotrac, this is an update. That's part of the process where it'll convert it to a newer version. Alright, and we are finished. So I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. I'm going to close this. And one thing I started noticing, sometimes the installation will pop up and ask for you to insert the floppy, your license file floppy, which nowadays has become a CD. But I've also noticed a lot of the installers don't ask anymore. So you have this little gold key here that has to be running for your software to work on any of your workstations, which, by the way, only runs if you're logged into the machine. So you want to keep that in mind. If your server were to restart and it's just sitting at the login screen and no one can get in, you want to make sure you confirm that this key is running. So to put our license file in there, we want to go ahead and just open up the key. And we are going to say license files. And in this case, I've already made a copy of the license file. Here's what is actually on the floppy or the CD. And if you don't have this and you're moving to like a new server, you can actually copy it out of your folder, whatever software it may be. So in the data here, OMS, and you'll have this PWSVR. It's not in there right now, but normally it would be on an active server. So we will leave this screen open here and we'll install a license file. And you would browse it out to wherever it may be. In this case, I have it on my desktop, so I'm going to choose that. I'm going to say OK, and there it goes. It'll pop in list, and you'll notice now over here in the PWSVR folder, it put it in here. So again, you're replacing a server. Copy this file, put it to, email it to yourself, put it somewhere else, copy it to a direct thumb drive if you don't have the original disk or anything like that. Or if your original disk is so old and you've added something new in the licensing, the old version may not have the ability to take a pan, or doesn't have your imaging software. So the one that's actually here will be newer than the disk if you for some reason have like two different ones and you're missing them. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And another thing worth mentioning, since we have the PracticeWorks server here, is some of these options here. The automatic server detection and duplicate server resolution. If for some reason you have like a legacy software, you moved from another Carestream software that actually has the gold key, you do have another one and you need to keep it around. Let's say you had SoftInt for whatever the reason. If these two keys on two different servers find each other, what will end up happening is one of them will pull the key from the other, and you'll actually get two keys in there. So if you do need to have it around, you can actually uncheck these boxes on both servers, and then they won't actually go out and find each other. So other than that, everything is good to go. You would be able to open Orthotrac, and if you were seeing this, it means you may be doing a fresh install. You can say go ahead and register now. You can choose via the automatic internet, or you can do it, if that doesn't work, you can do it via the phone. In this case, I'm going to say no. Alright, last thing I want to touch on is the backup of Orthotrac. So Orthotrac does use a SQL database, so it does mean that the data is in use constantly. So if you go into your data folder and then your OMS folder here, and you scroll down here, the actual database files are right here. These ones right here. So some backup software, if they can do open files or if they're SQL aware or not, you'll get errors that these files are in use. And you could stop the SQL instance and back them up, but that's not really the recommended way. What you should be doing is there is a executable in here called Orthoback. When you run this backup here, what will happen is it pops up this little message, and I've already done this, so let me scroll up here. It'll create this folder backup, and then you'll have the most recent, obviously is the most recent. You can see those are the same files there. And what it'll do is it'll create a folder for the previous one and put them in there. So you'll have a couple of them, a couple versions of the backup here. This doesn't run automatically, and I believe you can do it from Orthotrac 2. You can just hit the drop down and do backup. But what you may want to do is actually schedule a task for orthoback.exe to actually run. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to start, And I'll go to the control panel. And there's our task scheduler under administrative tools. I'm going to launch that. Close some of these windows here. I'm going to create a new basic task. Just call it Orthoback. You want to choose whatever the appropriate time of your office is open. If you're a Monday through Friday kind of office, and you want this to run before your backup. It's not that big of a process. 30 minutes is probably more than enough that's needed. Obviously, variance on speed of servers and data size and everything like that. So you'll want to test it and see how long it takes to run. So you might want to just set it, or my backup's going to run at 9. I'm going to have this run at 8. Start a program, and then browse out to your Orthotrac folder here, and then look for your Orthoback. And then go ahead and hit next, and then finish. So now what will happen is that will run, your backup will run. Tell your backup just to grab the OMS folder. You can exclude the data file so you don't get those error messages. And technically you don't need to get the whole OMS folder, but I always like to err on the side of caution and grab everything anyways. That's all of it. So thank you for watching the video, and take care.